Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast, and it turns out that Trump is surging. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
Welcome to the Right Guys podcast. Happy Friday. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. A little bit to talk about today. This Springfield, Ohio story is not going away.
It's because it's a real story, and they were trying to suppress real stuff going on, and because it's a political black eye for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? Of course they wanted to go away, but man, there's a lot of people saying they've seen their cats and dogs being eaten, cooked in the streets. I mean, it's yeah.
It's I dove into it, and apparently there's a local geese like shelter. So like when geese or migratory birds get injured, they nurse them back to help and release them.
Really?
The shelter is apparently saying that there is a marked decrease in the number of birds that they're taking in.
I don't want to start accusing people, but wow.
Well, no, they're on video. There are police calls, right? The people have testified that they've seen it in front of City Hall. And that's what pisses me off about the media. When someone goes before their city council and gives testimony, under oath, right? Yeah. If they give false testimony, there are consequences for that. If you lie, if you deliberately lie in one of those proceedings, but just to say, oh no, we called a couple people, they don't know what they're talking about. I've also seen a number of videos popping up of just Haitians in Dominican Republic barbecuing cats. Being interviewed. And these are years old being interviewed and saying, oh no, a cat's a delicacy. Again, it rings true. If you said, oh, the Irish immigrants all came to town and they stole everyone's beer and drank it, the first thing I would say was, oh, that doesn't sound right.
I'm like, the Irish just don't drink.
Like, oh, the Italians came in and they stole everyone's pasta and they ate it.
Right.
My first response would be like, how dare you denigrate them?
Yeah. A little racist there. But this is real.
But it's not racism. It's people's culture. It's what they eat, right?
Yeah, their relationship
what
with
they're
that food,
known to eat. It's like if the Mexicans came in and they say, oh wow, they robbed the Taco Bell and ate all the tacos. That doesn't sound crazy. You know what I mean? Like it does sound crazy.
Yeah.
It does sound crazy. But for some reason, we're being gaslit into believing that eating cats isn't a thing. And I don't know if you've seen the memes. The memes are great.
Oh, it's been nonstop.
This video, the AI generated video of the cats going into battle to defend themselves in Springfield, Ohio. It's amazing.
The same old theme since 1916.
What the hell is
this? Is incredible. I know, like you. This is why we created AI.
Yes.
That one.
I know.
That one's the best
forces. Oh my god, the Ninja Hood Kitty.
The special forces with the
this is amazing.
Out of the sweatshirt. That was great.
But we're laughing about people eating cats, right? Two clashing cultures where these are pets to us. These are precious family animals, right? And now there's people out there that look at your pet like they're food.
Yeah.
They're on the menu, right? Maybe they could take up fishing, right? Maybe that'll be a little easier to catch food, but this is not normal. And this is an American culture, man. So which one's going to win out? And where's PETA been on this one? You know, where's PETA out saying, hey, you know what?
Where's the ASPCA?
Come on, gang, get on board, right? Like maybe get a sign out there that says, please don't eat our cats, or at least start talking to the Haitians saying, hey, maybe you should reconsider your subsistence practices here and eat something a little different. But
we are a week, maybe less away from an actual video of a cat abduction.
Yeah.
And the videos I've seen of interviewers there on the scene, they ask the Haitians, and they're not saying there's no way that's happening. They all say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I don't know. It is it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And then you got Joe Biden, and obviously they had 9/11. Which, did you see the clip of Joe Biden? I didn't pull it. Do you
Putting
see
on the
how he
hat?
was?
No.
No, the day before, September 10th. He was asked. Here, let me pull the clip real quick.
Yeah.
He was asked by reporters outside the White House, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And his answer was, "We're going to go do 9/11."
Oh,
You didn't see that?
we're gonna go do 9/11 like
We're
it's
gonna
a
do 9/11.
like it's an act.
That's how he described it. Here it is.
Up to my granddaughter's birthday in New York. Then we're going to watch the debate. And then tomorrow I'm doing 9/11. I spoke to the vice president. She seems calm, cool, collected.
We're doing 9/11.
9/11. Wow, he was really somber when he announced that. You know, it's a moment of reflection when you think about all those people that lost their lives due to a terrorist attack. You think maybe he'd say something like, "Go pay our respects."
Yeah.
Do everything that's going on. I mean, that's how I handle it. That's how I handle it. But you know, this is the president of the United States. Apparently, he gets a pass on it.
Yeah, and so the way these things go, it's you can't avoid the fact that you're going to run into each other. So Biden and Harris both ran into Donald Trump,
Yeah,
and because you can't avoid it because you're going all the same events. They went to New York and then they went to Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and when they entered the firehouse in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, one after the other, it is very obvious this is Trump country and not Kamala Harris, Joe Biden country. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear a pin drop in that firehouse when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris entered. You have the clip. Why don't you go and play it?
absolutely. Like he's putting his hands out, waiting for the applause. Look at this; they're just staring at him. Nobody gives a crap. But even Kamala doesn't know what to. They don't even know how to handle this. That's the ultimate FU. I mean, I'm surprised people didn't stand up and turn their back on Biden and Harris.
I'm shocked. You could hear the babies cooing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there was nothing.
No.
I'm
It's a
surprised
slap.
Joe Biden stayed.
It's a huge slap in the face, man. It's like standing up and turning your back on somebody during a speech or something, right? It sends a message when you just sit there and you say nothing to the president of the United States has just walked into the room and it's silence. And Kamala's face in there, she's looking around going like, what is going on? Like it was almost creepy and eerie because they're not used to that. Nobody's used to that.
No. That I don't think Kamala Harris has ever walked into a room
Mhm.
and it just been dead silence.
Right.
Dead silence that they don't even know what's like no one wanted them there.
Yeah.
No one wanted them there.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the end of that interaction because after they got the silent treatment, Joe Biden did kind of interact with the people there, and he interacted with one Trump supporter, and there was an exchange. I'm going to give Joe Biden credit. He diffused it. It could have gotten hostile because the Trump supporter, this is an old guy, just making fun of him, calling him an old fart. Joe Biden offered to give him his signature. He says, "Can you even remember your name?" I mean, this is
ouch.
and Joe Biden played into it. Joe Biden played into it. But then we got one of the strangest things I've ever seen, which is Joe Biden putting on a Trump hat.
Presidential hat. Presidential seal on it.
You want to autograph it?
Oh, sure, I'll autograph.
Huh?
Yeah.
You remember your name?
I don't remember my name. I'm slow.
You're an old part.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm an old guy.
And you're an old part, right?
And I know you would know about that.
What?
About being old.
Oh, I know.
All right.
I'm a young timer.
Let me remind you of the guys I grew up with. There was always one in the neighborhood.
Well, I'm the only one.
There's always one in the neighborhood signing the
There you
presidential
go,
hat.
man. I need that hat.
What?
Want my
Taking his Trump
autograph?
hat.
Hell no.
You want my autograph? Hell no.
Oh no!
Come on.
I ain't going that far.
Yeah, you said you would do a selfie. There you go.
It's not.
How? He's not running for anything.
I'm proud of you now.
I'm proud of you. Not running for anything. Now, he said he wanted to do it in the spirit of unity. I get that. At the same time, though, you don't put the hat on.
No.
Like that.
No.
Donald Trump would never put on a Kamala Harris hat. You can't.
No.
And this has been a problem that Joe Biden's had, and he had it in the debate too. Which he had it in interviews after the debate when he's trying to present himself as with it and all there. He's for months painted Donald Trump as an existential threat, and he was asked questions after the debate. Well, what happens if Trump wins? And his answer was, "Well, I would have tried my best." It doesn't mesh with the idea that Donald Trump's going to destroy democracy. If your idea of losing is like, "Oh well, I tried my best, and that's all you can do." If Donald Trump posed the threat that Joe Biden claims he poses, you don't put that hat on.
No.
That'd be like putting on Adolf Hitler's hat.
Yeah, like,
You know what I mean? Like,
swastikas. Yeah, of course it would be.
Yeah, it'd be like putting on a swastika shirt. You can't do it if you believe that Donald Trump is those things. Very obviously, it's not true. But yeah, that was a crazy image, and of course, the Donald Trump campaign didn't miss a beat.
Sure. I'm not surprised.
Pictures. Thank you, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And saying like, yeah, Trump set the debate. Joe Biden hates Kamala Harris. Next day, he puts on a Trump hat.
In this week, we've had Kamala Harris tell people to go to a Trump rally, and we've had Joe Biden wear a Trump hat.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not the team working on her campaign or their marketing people, but that's generally something you don't want to do, even if you are trying to make fun of the opponent. She was trying to paint the Trump rallies as something bad, but Trump rallies are fantastic. I've been to one.
Yeah.
There's people there for a common goal. It's fun. You get food and a beer, and you get the future president talking. It's great. Why would they do that? Like, that's the dumbest move ever.
Yeah. That should be the ad. Go to a Trump rally.
Yeah.
Well, Kamala Harris had a rally yesterday, and it was packed. But one of her aides released a video that I believe they tried to delete, but the internet's forever. We have it.
Yeah.
Of people walking into the rally, coming off of their buses. And I have the video. There's no audio to it, so we'll just talk over it.
Buses.
Coming out of their buses to go to the rally.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've covered this before, but there are people who have geofenced these rallies, and they're looking into where are these cell phones coming from. And thousands of the cell phones at this event were allegedly their home base was in Georgia.
Oh,
their home base was in Georgia. So where was this rally? This Kamala Harris rally was in North Carolina.
that's a drive. It's a drive.
It's a drive. I want to get this right because the math makes sense. Was it in Raleigh? Did she have it in Raleigh?
I don't remember. I don't pay attention to her rallies.
Charlotte. No. Greensboro.
Oh, it's Greensboro.
Greensboro, North Carolina. So let's go to Google Maps.
Yeah. How far away? I'm going to guess 350 miles ish. But it's just a guess out there. I'm just trying to think of that distance. But the idea that they've been bussed in, I mean, you got to bust in a bunch of people from Georgia? And that doesn't really help your vote in South Carolina, right? Or North Carolina?
No. So you're busting them in from Georgia. Downtown Georgia, be 5 hours. Outskirts, downtown Atlanta, 5.5 hours. The outskirts of Atlanta, right? The Atlanta area, you pick them up a little bit further. It's about a 4-hour drive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Here's where it gets a little bit interesting. Kamala Harris's speech was very short. They kept it
Oh.
extremely short,
Minutes?
but I think it was clocked at 25 minutes. Now, there were other
Four.
people who spoke before her,
That's short.
but when you start looking at this map and saying 4 hours there, 4 hours back, and you start looking at Department of Transportation regulations that say commercial drivers can't drive for 10 hours, more than 10 hours without an 8-hour rest period.
Oh,
If you knew you had commercial drivers busing people in from 4 hours away, the clock is ticking.
yeah.
The clock is ticking, because then you'd reach, if you speak for too long, then the people can't get home unless they were to bring a second driver. So that's one of the things that you're like, well, why was the speech so short? And then you look at it, you're like, well, if they're trying to facilitate people with long commercial driver commute times, right? Then you're like, okay, well, that might make sense. Because in any other reason, I can't understand why someone would have people wait in line for a 25-minute speech unless you just had to be quick. And she had nowhere to go afterwards.
No. And having to bring in transplants from another state. This is almost political suicide, because they're just putting that out there for the cameras. They're not actually doing it to get the votes out there, because there was probably no one in North Carolina that wanted to show up.
Well, that was also the deal. She had an event in Savannah, and people looked at the van lines, and the van lines were from Atlanta. So that's still a couple-hour drive.
Yeah.
So if you have to bus people in, that was something Trump said at the debate. You're busing people in. You're busing people in. That's not something you'll see at a Trump rally. You won't see lines and lines of buses filling up the place. People drive their cars. People take the train, whatever, commute. You're not seeing commercially booked private van lines.
Yeah.
Bringing thousands of people to these events.
It's wild, man.
It is pretty wild, and
it's AstroTurf stuff still, right? You got to bring in you got to bring everything, including the fans, to one of her shows, and there's just no support. There's none of that grassroots stuff. This is all manufactured.
And that's the other thing. If you're going to pay that much money, spend that much time and effort, AstroTurfing, creating the appearance of mass popularity, you have to brag about it.
You do.
Right? So anyone who's ever been to a Trump rally, you know that the last thing you want to ever suggest is that they're not packed, that they're not fun.
Yeah.
That people don't stay. The times when people leave Trump rallies, you know when that happens? When Donald Trump's speaking at the very end of the rally, he brings up all of the other candidates to basically endorse them.
Yeah.
People don't leave during Trump's speeches. They leave after he speaks, when he's introducing, okay, this guy's running for Congress, this guy's running for Senate, come on up. And people are like, oh, I don't know, I'm voting for him, doesn't matter. But for Kamala Harris to bring it up on the debate stage, that was prioritized because they've spent so much time and money creating the appearance of this popularity.
And it does you no good unless you got to fix in on the election, right? I mean, that's my biggest fear, is they try to feign this popularity. So if things do go squirrely, we'll say, with the next election, then they can make the claim, right? There was tons of ground support for him. There's tons of groundswell for Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah.
It's just so fake. It's just not real. It's the heart of the Harris campaign. Just make it up as we go along and be complete AstroTurf until we get up to election day, and hope that counties come through for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Georgia had a problem with the last election, but I'm really worried that the pipes freeze again or break again, or the middle of the night bathroom. Something.
They're gonna try something. They're absolutely going to try something.
You bet. Where's it going to be?
And they're probably going to try something in North Carolina, because the North Carolina Supreme Court upheld the decision to take RFK Jr. off the ballot, which basically means that all of the millions of ballots they've already printed have to be thrown out. They have to restart printing. They have to redesign the ballots, restart printing, and that's already cutting into early voting time. So the Democrats are freaking out.
Yeah.
Now, in the regular world, anyone who cares about voting in the election, losing a couple of days of early voting isn't going to matter. Just you plan ahead, right?
Yeah.
You just plan ahead. drop your ballot off somewhere else. But the Democrats need that time to do the harvesting. Need that time to do
that's the issue, right?
So every day that they lose on harvesting means that they lose votes. They can't just count on voters to turn them in because the voters aren't going to turn them in because they're not really because they wouldn't vote if they weren't told to.
Yeah,
or had their ballots filled out for them.
But but there it is. I mean, there's the Harris campaign right there. Harris Walz campaign, fake all the way. Like if I had to start coming up with titles for him for it, like not real, AstroTurf all the way, or fake teams, fake people, fake smile, fake laugh.
Yeah,
fake smiles, fake laugh. And her voice the other night in the debate, she's so nasally, she drives me nuts. Like I couldn't be in the same room with her and listen to her for about 5 minutes before I would just be like, you know what, I'm done. I had enough of her. But I have my own biases and whatnot. But here we go. I mean, how many days until the election? They still can't. I mean, they had to bust in people in North Carolina, man. I mean,
if they had to bust people in for North Carolina, it's not good. It's not good. Yeah, but no, Trump is surging in a lot of these polls. I mean, some of the polls are the same as they always were.
Yeah.
But he's been surging a lot of the polls. He's back up to being ahead in the poly market.
Yeah, I just went to 270 to win to see what they're bringing up. And man, if I'm a Democrat right now, I'm freaking out about Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. I'm freaking out about.
You also got to freak out about Minnesota. I just saw a poll come out that she's only up by 4 in Minnesota.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if Minnesota goes red? I mean, that would be, according to what's up there now, that'd give them 335 electoral votes. It's just insane. 2024 consensus.
There we go. Latest general election poll, Minnesota, Trump down by 4. So listen, that's if you're down by 4, if you're up by 4 in a poll, you got to go to the state. And every day that Kamala Harris is spending in Minnesota and Virginia is a day she's not spending in Pennsylvania, or Georgia, or North Carolina,
or Nevada.
So if you told me that she was going to pick the governor of Minnesota and that you'd have a poll 2 months before the election showing Donald Trump only down by 4 in Minnesota, I wouldn't have believed you. No. I think that when all is said and done, no matter, I truly believe that her not picking Josh Shapiro is going to be a huge mistake.
Yeah.
I really think that that's going to be a devastating mistake for her. As we've said before, I mean, it was very obvious why she did it. Doesn't want to piss off the Arabs in Michigan, all that. If she had picked Josh Shapiro, he is so popular in Pennsylvania, it probably would have been over. Versus Tim Walz. Tim Walz is popular among the people who are already voting for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Conservatives, many independents hate him.
Yeah.
Hate him. And there are rumors circulating that the Trump campaign, the GOP, is vetting a piece of opposition research that they're describing as career ending for Tim Walz. Now,
okay.
I don't know. They're vetting it, and it's kind of been circulating. People saying, I just got something. I can't confirm it, but apparently it's horrible. They're vetting it right now. Vetting it for an October surprise. And that narrative of career ending, let me see if I can pull up the latest tweet.
I mean, it's got to be one of those things that's just so egregious that it ends your campaign. And who's sitting on it? Like, and who's going to break first? I'd be interested to see if after it's vetting, if it's true and what effects that's really going to have. I mean, can they pull out Walz at the very end for another candidate? Like pull another switcheroo late in the field? I mean, he could drop out. He doesn't have to run. And maybe that's what ends up happening.
There are, I mean, if you just search Walz career ending.
Yeah.
This guy, Dustin Gray, I'm told the GOP is currently vetting career ending information at Tim Walz, but would not disclose what the oppo was. Red Eagle Politics. Tim Walz has about 19 days until his political career is over. there are some rumblings. Now, things get blown out of proportion. People, maybe it gets vetted as false, but if you think that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are going to go through November without October surprises coming out, I mean, that's the problem of them running against Trump. Everyone knows everything about Trump.
Yeah.
There's
very little out there.
There's nothing to pull.
Yeah.
Which is why it's why you see them grasping at straws and saying, "Oh, there's a piss tape from Moscow." Like, no, there isn't. They just want there to be because there's nothing else to pull.
If there was, we would have seen it.
Yes.
Right. Grab them by the blank video was supposed to be the ender, right? Then I think that's the worst they have. But it doesn't stop them from trying to make that up. And there's plenty out there on Walz I'm sure we have not seen and are about to see. So does he pull out if that does drop, or do they go all the way from here? And I mean, we're almost halfway through September now. It's going to be interesting to see how this all ends up shaking out. Yeah, I mean, which way do you think Nevada's going to go on this one, by the way? Because she spent so much time on the East Coast. She has not been in Nevada. Those key in Arizona, or even New Mexico to some degree. But
she's been in Arizona. But so Nevada, if Donald Trump wins Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada doesn't put him over the top.
Yeah.
He has to win Pennsylvania or Michigan and Nevada or Wisconsin and Nevada. So my understanding is that she's trying to build that firewall the way that Hillary Clinton tried to build the firewall. But all of the data I'm seeing, especially latest poll showing Trump up in Michigan, that the firewall is crumbling. Yeah. It's crumbling.
Yeah. I mean,
so we'll see. We'll see. I still think that there's going to be a surprise state somewhere. I think we're going to see a state that was written off and become really, really close, maybe even flip to Trump. They tried to make a big deal that Trump was moving his paid staffers out of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
It's basically saying New Hampshire's lost. But right after that, Kamala Harris sent her surrogates to New Hampshire. You know what I mean? So if a state's in the bag, you don't campaign there.
No.
Right?
No, there would be no need.
I think New Hampshire could be interesting. I mean, the polls are often wrong up there. Mm-hmm. New Hampshire could be interesting. Virginia, I still have Virginia as, wouldn't that be amazing? And the polls coming out of Minnesota are not good for her. Not good for her. If Donald Trump outperforms the polls the way he has traditionally, it's not a win for her.
And I think there's going to be more surprises than we think. I think everybody hates Kamala Harris enough that they're willing to vote Trump this time. Remember how we had the Never Trumpers? Where are the Never Harrises? Right? The Never Harrises have to exist. If a Never Trumper exists, the same thing has to happen on the other side. So who are they? Where are they? My guess is that there are some middle-aged liberals that have a real hard time thinking about another 4 years of Democrat policies.
Yeah.
Because they're starting to make money, right? Some of those young folks are actually out starting to see that taxes are destroying their lives. Everything's falling apart. People are eating the kittens and the cats in Ohio, right? Like, that's stuff that just you can't brush off. It has real weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you see what Marianne Williamson said?
No.
So she was Biden's one of his lead opponents in the non-primary. Right. This is what she put out. Continuing to dump on Trump because of the eating cats issue will create blowback on November 5th. Haitian voodoo is in fact real, and to dismiss the story out of hand rather than listen to the citizens of Springfield, Ohio, confirms in the minds of many voters the stereotype of Democrats as smug elite jerks who think they're too smart to listen to anyone outside their own silo. And you look right below, 5 million views. Yeah. So I mean, there's and she subsequently says, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm saying that you can't just say it can't be happening when the people on the ground are telling you it's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't just dismiss it out of hand.
It's going to be a really interesting run, man. But I still think we got to tell everybody to get out and vote.
Oh yeah,
Like, share,
absolutely.
subscribe us, get the message out. I mean, it's the easiest way to do that is to make sure people are listening to us and you're downloading that on a daily. Share it with your friends and comment, gang. I mean, if there's stuff out there you want to hear, you can let us know, or stuff you've seen that just broke or you find interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean, we gotta get people out to vote because
Yeah.
the reason that these polls are some of them skew towards Kamala Harris is the way that they're weighting the idea of being a likely voter. We talked about this on the podcast before about how they're trying to create a new class called definite voters, right?
Yeah, just not real.
So we have to make sure that everyone, all conservatives, all Trump supporters, all Trump voters vote.
Yeah.
Because these polls, the way they're saying, oh, Kamala's up by 5, they're banking on the fact that Trump supporters aren't going to vote.
Right.
Which, if I know anything about Trump supporters, it's that they crawl over broken glass for this man. So it's up to all of us. It's up to all of us to make sure that people get out the vote. If you're going to go vote, bring someone with you, right? Hound.
Yeah.
If you know someone usually misses elections, hound them. Say, have you voted yet? Have you voted yet? Have you voted yet? Be that squeaky wheel. Be that
Everywhere you
squeaky wheel
go
in their life. Well, we were chatting about a news story, and I think we disagree on this, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it isn't often that we disagree on self-defense cases, but I wanted to talk about it. Let's see if we can agree, or maybe we have to end up agreeing to disagree. This was a story that came out of Newton, Mass, which is where I went to college. Boston College is in Newton. Chestnut Hill is a neighborhood of Newton. So I know this area very well. They had a protest. They had a protest. A man was not Jewish, just pro-Israel, waving an Israeli flag, part of this protest. And all of a sudden, someone on the other side of the street basically starts yelling at him. They're trading barbs back and forth. And all of a sudden, the agitator across the street charges through a crosswalk and tackles the pro-Israel demonstrator to the ground, to the concrete. There was a scuffle. The tackled demonstrator gets off one shot with a handgun, concealed handgun, and people around him pull the attacker off of him. Crazily, the man who ran across the street and tackled him for no good reason has not been charged. Instead, the man who was tackled to the ground, to the concrete, has been charged. He faces 2 charges. Let me make sure I get the charges right. Assault and battery with a deadly weapon.
Wow.
And violation of a constitutional right causing injury.
Okay.
I want to play the clip. Josh, I think the prosecutors got the people switched.
You think so?
The guy across the street wasn't protesting. He wasn't engaged in a constitutional activity, protected activity. I think that charge was meant to go to him. He ran across the street and tackled someone who was holding up a sign and demonstrating. He should be the one, if anything, charged with causing a violation of a constitutional right by causing injury.
Injury, yeah.
But like, if that's not the case, then what's the constitutional right? Let's play the clip. Let's watch it.
Yeah, let's let people see.
Were you sick?
I was sick. You are defending genocide.
Genocide?
Yes.
But you are so stupid.
Over 200,000.
You're so stupid. You're
200,000.
stupid. It's a stop. Give me my head. Give me my head. Yo! It's another man. Yo! Oh my God! Whoa!
Grab my pistol.
Oh my God!
Grab my pistol.
Oh my
Stop!
God!
Get off him!
What is
Stop!
that?
Get off him!
Yo! Let me back up! Yo!
Where's my pistol?
Oh my God!
Grab my pistol.
Oh my God!
my pistol. Stop! Get off him! Stop! Get off him!
Call the cops.
A lot going on there, right? A lot going on there.
Now, we've kind of discussed this. Now, self-defense laws will vary depending on the state,
Even by county sometimes.
even by county sometimes. But it is well established that hitting someone's head against concrete can kill them.
Sure.
So when this guy runs across the crosswalk, jumps on this demonstrator, tackles him to the ground, I mean, you see his head hit the concrete.
Mhm.
Right?
Does that happen? Do we see it? Because I don't see his head actually hit the concrete. I see no video evidence of that. So that's one of the pieces where I'm already like, uh-oh.
You didn't
Now,
just hit the concrete?
I can't see it, right? And you have to articulate it, right? I can't see it here.
No, you have to articulate what he feared.
So
It's not a top-down approach. It comes to what he reasonably believed. And here's the statute from Massachusetts.
for their state.
Reasonable statute for Massachusetts. So, in order to prove that the defendant did not act in self-defense, the Commonwealth must prove one of the following things. So, self-defense is presumed. You are presumed to have acted in self-defense, and it's the government's job to prove that you didn't. First, that the defendant did not reasonably believe that he or she was being attacked or was immediately about to be attacked, and that his or her safety was in immediate danger. I think we can cross that one off. The guy just got tackled.
Yeah, I'll accept that one.
So the idea that it would be unreasonable to think he was being attacked, that's gone. Second, that the defendant did not do everything reasonable in the circumstances to avoid physical combat before resorting to force. There were other people around him chirping at that guy, but he didn't run across the street to attack him.
Mhm.
He was on the other side of the road. And this guy ran across and just jumped on him. We don't live in a video game. You can't just sidestep, right? This isn't Madden. You can't just hit spin move, juke, get out of the way. If someone runs across the street and wants to jump on you, they're going to jump on you. So I would toss this one out too.
I want it to be tossed out because I'm siding with the guy that did the shooting. But here's the thing, is that if his head didn't hit the ground, this remains a simple assault, which means that you can only respond with the level of reaction that has been presented to you. And his level exceeded that of a simple assault the moment he pulled out his pistol and shot him. And technically, he now becomes, the way the law sees it, the bad guy. But this isn't, there's another thing going on here. There's not two separate fights, right? There's just one fight. So
I think we can toss out two. The idea that he could have done anything to stop this crazy guy from running across the street and tackling him.
In Colorado, it's called a reasonable means of escape, right?
Mhm.
So the way I teach it here is that, one, did you have a reasonable means of escape? Did you meet the level of threat with the correct force? Did you have great fear of bodily harm or going unconscious?
Mhm.
Right? The one hitting on the head, I would say that's reasonable that you could go unconscious. Reasonable.
The arm around the neck.
So looking at that, if I was to put martial arts experts out there, that's not a blood choke. He's not going out with that. He's not going out with it. That's a simple assault.
That's not the standard. You've just been jumped on, attacked by a guy across the street. He's thrown you down to the concrete. He's on top of you, and his arm is around your neck.
Still
At
simple
this point,
assault.
but at this point, there are a lot of things that this guy has done that could cause him serious, permanent, or life-threatening injuries.
Yes, maybe.
Maybe.
And this is all, it all turns into lawyer speak, right? All this that we're talking about,
Yeah.
it just becomes lawyer speak. So right now, he goes for a weapon, right? Technically, the guy that has tackled him is now being presented with a level of force that exceeded what he had. He's now in the right to respond, to get on that weapon or use his own weapon at that point.
Well, here's the other bit. This guy is face down. His attacker is behind him. He can't see his attacker. He's just been jumped on by a guy who ran across the street, tackled him to the concrete, his arms around his neck, and he's face down. He can't see what the guy's behind him doing. So
I don't disagree with that, yeah.
the idea that he could possibly know that he doesn't have a weapon, right? He just broke the law. He assaulted him, right?
Sure.
He's thrown him down to the concrete. People have been tackled to the concrete, hit their head, break their
And
neck,
died.
and died.
And died.
People have been choked out. Now, whether or not that posture would do that, whatever. In his situation, though, he's face down enough where the guy's behind him. An arm is around his neck. He's just been tackled down to the concrete. The fear element of this, being in fear for your life, that it's reasonable to think this guy might be trying to kill me. This isn't a tickle fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. His
Where's his
pistol
other
also
hand?
comes loose. And so that's the first thing I teach is you got to monitor people's hands because you don't know if he's reaching for a knife.
But he's face down.
Still got to try to monitor hands. You got to turn into that fight. Like I train people to do this stuff. We train this exact scenario. And more often than not, we come up and we realize that now, unless we can articulate all those things we just mentioned, you're going to be charged. Doesn't mean you're wrong. You're going to be charged.
But the other guy wasn't charged.
And that's the craziest part because he should at least be charged for aggravated assault.
Yes.
Right? And he should be the one that's charged with the deprivation of loss of rights under a constitutional act, right? He should
That's the
absolutely
crazy
be
part.
charged.
That's the crazy part. What the demonstrator, the guy who had the gun, shot the other guy. What constitutional right did he deprive the attacker of?
Sure.
The constitutional right to run across the street and assault people you disagree with? This wasn't a situation where you had competing rallies on different sides of the road. This was just a guy walking by, seeing their pro-Israel signs and flags and attacking him for it. Right? So I can understand that in a perfect world where you had 360-degree view where you could see everything, right? You might say, oh, well, this guy doesn't have a weapon. But when you've just been knocked to the ground unexpectedly, guy's arm is around your neck, you're mostly face down. You can't see what else is going on. If I was in that situation, if I was on a jury, I would absolutely say it is reasonable. It is reasonable to fear for your life. That doesn't mean you have to be certain that your life is in jeopardy, but it would be reasonable to be in fear for your life. And if it's reasonable to be in fear for your life, then they can't use the third exception, which is that he used more force than reasonably necessary in the circumstances. It's only more force if he knows for certain that this guy doesn't have a weapon. He's just been attacked. We're not talking about a guy at a bar who gets slapped and shoots someone. Right? I mean, that's a clearly disproportionate force. Right? We're not talking about a slap response with a gun. Someone tackled him to the ground, wrapped his arm around his neck. It is reasonable. It is reasonable to fear for your life.
Let's also go back to the beginning of the video. So the lady is calling him stupid, or at least saying what he's doing. And I know the lawyer is going to call that taunting. So I would argue, as the devil's advocate lawyer on this, that you started the fight. In fact, you began by taunting. This is just lawyer talk, right? This is how it's going to start shaking out in court. This isn't my position. I'm just saying. So you taunt this guy. He comes over and he goes from simple assault to aggravated assault, but it's still assault. And that's why they just charge him, right? And now he has to go to court to protect himself. So what I encourage people to do is go to your local city and figure out what defines self-defense. Because you're going to be shocked how quickly you become the bad guy.
Yeah.
The moment you pull your gun, right? Or you even defend yourself. And you may be completely in the right. This guy looks like he was tackled. It looks like he's trying to put a chokehold on him, right? He's trying to do all the things. I can't see hands. I would want to shoot too, but that's not how the law sees it, right?
We also saw a situation like towards the end of it. It was only after he shot the guy that multiple people were able to pull him off. During this scrum, there were people trying to pull him off of him, and they were unsuccessful. They were unsuccessful until the shot came off. There were other hands on him during this.
man, that's a tough shot. That is a really tough choice. Just having the foot on that throat like that, if he had his own weapon, he could go to it. Like there's so many things going on in this, and this is he doesn't really have a choke. If they start bringing in self-defense experts, this guy that tackled him, he has no clue what he's doing. He has none.
But here's what I would argue. Look at this shot. You want to talk about disproportionate force. This guy has tackled someone, thrown him to the concrete, wrapped his arm around the other guy's neck, and look at how many people are fighting back against him. You got the man on the ground pushing back. You got another hand right there on the left, and you got another hand right there on the right. 3 people are trying to stop this assault unsuccessfully. This isn't a situation where it's a one-on-one. 3 people had their hands on him to try and stop this. It took a gunshot to stop it, right? So what I would argue, if you want to talk about disproportionate force, if this was one-on-one, maybe you could make the argument. I still would disagree. But the fact that it took a gunshot to stop this assault and 3 people couldn't stop it, that to me is the disproportionality of it, right? And this is something that'll be argued. It'll go either way.
Oh yeah.
What's crazy though is that the prosecutor, police chief, whoever she was, admitted in the press conference that she hasn't completed the investigation.
Which is crazy. You got it. And just to throw chart, how can you charge somebody if the investigation is not complete? That's the thing. You got to pour over all this evidence. And as the prosecutor, you got to think to yourself, am I going to get enough to actually charge this person? Because they're going to start painting the antagonist in this, the guy that's wearing the purple shirt on top, right? They're going to start painting him as an unhinged psychopath who ran across, right? And the defense for that person is going to call him, a person who was assaulted visually by the signs that are out there. And it's just going to turn into these crazy arguments in court. And it's just going to cost you money.
I saw clips that suggested the DA hasn't seen these videos yet. She said that there's stuff on social media. I haven't seen it yet. She said that the investigation was not complete. How then do you arrive at the conclusion of like violation of constitutional rights that cause injury? There is nothing in this video that suggests that charge belongs against the victim of the assault.
Yeah.
There's nothing. You can't even pretend that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They threw that charge out there, they complete the investigation. They know, okay, that charge doesn't make sense. And how do you know that this guy charged across the road and tackled someone and he isn't charged?
He should certainly be charged. The idea that they haven't charged him yet, and if she hasn't completed the investigation, she should keep her mouth shut, because already she set up the victim here for a court case they can't possibly win because they've swayed so much public opinion. I personally think that the guy on the bottom is probably should have shot, but the way the color of the law is written, he's now exposed. He's performed in the DA's eyes a crime in a simple assault. And if you guys haven't looked into what constitutes self-defense where you live, you need to look it up. You need to know. If you're going to carry a weapon, you need to know. Remember, every fight that you get into where you have a gun on you is a gunfight.
Yeah.
It's a gunfight. You bring a gun to every fight, or you bring a knife to every fight, right? And he could go down as being charged with this.
Here's an eyewitness statement.
Yeah, what do we have?
Saw the entire incident. At some point in that melee, there was a shot, but this guy was really tough to take down. He was really determined. He was really hateful. That witness testimony undercuts the disproportionality argument. If you have witness saying, wow, he was tough to take down, people were trying to pull him off and it wasn't working. I mean, again, these are split second stuff.
Sure, yeah. Of course.
To speak to this guy on the ground, face down, tackled onto the concrete, arm around his neck, bystanders trying but unsuccessfully pulling the attacker off of him. The question is it reasonable? Is it reasonable to fear for your life or fear that you're going to be seriously injured? And I can understand why anti-gun prosecutors would say absolutely not. There's no room for that on the streets. There's no room for people running across the street and tackling people that they politically disagree with.
Yeah.
That's what there's no room for.
And if you're older, like if I go and try to train with somebody who's 10 years younger than me, I already feel outmatched because they're younger and they're stronger and they're faster. So I don't know if they'll have like the age disparity stuff, but often, at least where I live, they don't even consider that.
Yeah.
You know, and it just, learn what the law says about self-defense where you live. And if you don't like it, work to get it changed. Because he could easily go to jail for this. He can easily be pegged. He could easily come out the other side of this as a felon. Assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Does it change your calculus if you know that the guy who ran across the street and did the tackling, that he had a Palestinian support pin on his shirt and that the tackling occurred outside of a temple?
No. I mean,
does that change the calculus?
The way I would look at it, you would have to prove then that there would be some sort of anti-Semitic feelings about that. Well, you got to prove it.
He's shouting across the street that you guys are genocidal.
Yeah. Convince the jury. I mean, you got to convince the jury, right?
It's if someone attacked me just in the middle of nowhere, that'd be one thing. If someone attacks me in front of my church because of my faith beliefs, because of my faith,
that's a hate crime. I mean, it feels like hate crime. That feels like a hate crime. And a hate crime under the law is a more significant criminal act than simple assault or even aggravated assault, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, hate crime, you go to prison for longer. If it's an aggravated assault in perpetuation of a hate crime, that is a more significant prison sentence. Those get tacked
at least
on.
The law, but the attack would be the same. It's just now they've added qualifier. Man, this is why it's so hard with this stuff.
And here's the other question, right? So let's go right here. Right here. So they get him off of him. There's a shot. Here's the question.
I don't even know how he got it off. That shot off.
Those guys stomping his head?
Yeah.
They haven't been charged.
And that's the other piece.
I don't want them to be charged.
Right.
But in a world where it's not a crime to stomp on this attacker's head to subdue him, but it is a crime to fire one shot to get him off of the guy, right? That doesn't mesh.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mesh. And I don't want these people to be charged. I don't think anyone who was there should be charged, except for the guy who ran across the street. But if we're supposed to believe that the gentleman who felt the only way to stop this attack was to stomp him, to curb stomp him, right? That's not a crime. Then you're opening the argument to say, no, lethal force was necessary. Significant, potentially lethal force was necessary to stop this, because that's what a curb stomp is, right?
Yeah, there are some Good Samaritan laws that do protect you in those instances, but only to a degree. Like it's tough because it'll only protect you up to a certain limit of the force that you apply. And the other thing that this shows is that there's a camera everywhere. And even with direct evidence showing things that are going on, showing somebody actively attacking you, look how you're still treated as the bad guy, right? The camera's never your friend, and you have to make split-second decisions. Why you've got to train with that. That dude, I don't even know how he pulled that shot off, and I've been wrapped up on the ground. We train those sort of things.
I was surprised. I was very surprised he was able to, based on where his hands were. I never want to have to discharge my gun to defend me.
Yeah.
Never want to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I'm in that situation, and this guy's running full tilt at me. I'm pulling my weapon.
Yeah, and
now that might be the benefit of me living in Texas and having a little bit more friendly of a self-defense situation than Newton, Massachusetts.
Whew.
But
Like-
sorry, it's playing on the other screen. I can't get over. I can't get over
Yeah.
the charging
They-
before the investigation is over. The accusing him of violating the tackler's constitutional rights.
He's
It's just
probably
insane.
he'll most likely come out okay on the other end, but how much is it going to cost you now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How much are you going to have to pay for a criminal defense attorney? Like there's so much involved with this. Way it's hard to be a gun carrying American sometimes because you know you have the right to it. You should defend yourself, and the moment you do, they try to label you as a bad guy. Just depending on the county laws or wherever you're at, the state laws. If I was in downtown Denver County and the same thing happened, I guarantee you I would be up. He would be up on charges, right? It happens in any other, like a Chaffee County out in the middle of nowhere. The DA there is going to call that simple self-defense. And a lot of times it's DAs trying to make names for themselves, right? Like a Kamala Harris, who's just constantly going after people, right? Yeah. And it's so hard. There's no right answers to this. This is one of those things where you just sit there, you argue it. It has to go to court. I mean, I probably would have done the same, but I also trained 10 hours plus a week on these sort of things. I've got more things in my toolbox to go to. This guy only knew how to go to his weapon and pop the dude in the stomach. So remember, you will revert to your lowest level of training in these situations, gang. You will just revert to it.
It's the other part of this is by not charging the tackler, the guy who did the tackling, they deprive the shooter of being able to argue in court. I was attacked by someone who committed an aggravated assault, right?
That thing.
So if they charge the attacker, then it becomes much easier for the shooter to argue that he was justified, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because being a victim of an aggravated assault, then you're like, okay, well, let's look at the tape. But if you live in a world where you say, oh, there was no aggravated assault, the other guy had a constitutional right to tackle him and protesting in support of Israel in front of a synagogue, then you can come up to the conclusion that, oh no, that gun had no place there.
Yeah. So is it closer to Boston where this crime occurred? Because I'm just trying to look at the DA. It's on the outskirts. Because if you start looking at the DA's offices around there, there's a lot of different DAs, and they are most likely not friendly. You could be
no.
Depending on what side of the street you're on, sometimes the charges can be different because you're in one county versus another. So if you guys haven't taken any basic self-defense training, you need to, because I worried this guy might be charged and they find him guilty too. That's the other piece of it, right? Because you can still be, quote unquote, the good guy and go to jail.
Yeah.
The good guys don't always win, gang.
No, you don't always win. You don't always win. And that's the sad part about this. But in a world where he doesn't pull his gun and those Good Samaritans can't pull him off.
Yeah.
Right. He gets choked out. His head gets smashed into the concrete and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing with this story. It's not like you can't imagine a world where he either dies or is severely injured. It's an absolute possibility that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a shame. So I know that there is a GoFundMe going around to support him. Let me find his full name so people can search it.
And the other thing is the story you start telling them when they show up. And my advice to you is to learn what to say and shut up, and then wait for your lawyer. Learn to shut up.
I was attacked. I was attacked. I defended myself. Other than that, I'm not answering any other questions.
Yeah.
Lawyer up.
Please send help. Please send help to this place. And if they start asking questions, you hang up. That's what I tell people to do. Just hang up. Just hang up. They're on their way, right? The record starts from the moment you make that 911 call. The record starts here inside the video.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, well, did you start this fight, right? Were you a willing participant is one of the things they always ask here, right?
Yeah, it wasn't mutual combat. It wasn't mutual combat. Does it change your opinion that after the shooting, the man who fired the shot rendered first aid to the man he shot?
I mean, it's something that I
mean, that's the kind of thing.
I don't know.
But that's the kind of thing that you didn't hear from the press conference
Yeah,
condemning him for taking a shot. It's one thing to shoot to kill, empty a magazine to someone. It's another thing to fire one shot and then try and save the man's life. Because then you could argue he was not trying to end his life. He was just trying to stop the other guy from attacking him. And in his mind, he reasonably used the minimal amount of force, one shot. If he
Max, you gotta go get your. You gotta go. Come on, you
know.
gotta go be a lawyer, dude. You gotta go to be a lawyer.
If he had wanted to die,
Yeah,
he wouldn't have rendered aid. You know what I mean? Like that. It's messy, but it's too messy to be filing these charges against
Without
him
knowing what's going on. Yeah.
without even watching the YouTube, the Twitter videos.
Oh, yeah. And I'm glad he didn't shoot him again after he was off.
No.
It's
If
so
he
easy to
stands
go
over
for-
him
yeah.
and Punisher style execution, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I would argue that the head stomps are the equivalent of doing that.
I don't want to give him ideas, but
I don't want them to be
I know.
charged. But again, if we live in a world where that is reasonable for people to pull him off and stomp his head to make him unconscious so he doesn't attack anymore, that's the same level as one shot to the gut. It just is.
And now totally jumping off of this, like when I saw the guy race across the street, I was like, what a dick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
what a dick.
Yeah.
He's being a bad guy. He's taunting. He's trying to get something to happen. And when he goes over there, he makes that charge, and you see that coming. Like, if you don't know how to deal with someone charging at you and you get taken to the ground, you're going to go for your piss. I mean, that's what you train people to do, right? Oh, there's just so much here. And it just makes it so hard.
What is it about them that feels entitled that they should be able to do that?
What do you mean? Like
what is it? What do you think it is that makes people believe the sheer sight of an Israeli flag entitles them to run across the street and tackle someone to the concrete?
Oh, it's got to be an anti-Semitism, a sense of it's like they live on a high horse, right? They're grandiose. They think they're above it, or there's so much evil that they think is associated with the Israeli flag that they're just willing to fight and kill. And a lot of these people who in the U.S. support Palestine have never actually been there to see what goes on the ground and how that stuff actually shakes out. And they've got all these really volcanic sort of opinions on it. And I mean, you don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I don't know why it gets people so pissed off. Right? I mean, there's so much anger that's around that subject. And I've seen people at universities just get into like classroom discussions, almost go to blows just because they say, I just don't like Israel. And they call Israelis rats, right? I mean, anti-Semitism is strong in this country everywhere.
It's the same thing with the Trump assassination attempt.
Yeah.
What did you think would happen if you present one side as a genocidal maniac who poses an existential threat to the entire world? Then it's not aggravated assault. Then it's, I tried to take out Hitler. I was justified.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then there's this sense of justice, like this over glorified sense of responsibility to try to take them out. And it's just not there.
Yeah.
But that's been the political tactic of the left since the 90s, man. I mean, we're seeing a culmination of what all those negative politics the Clintons started has created, right? We're in a place now where you are simply calling them your enemy now, and not a political opinion against yours. They're called opponents, political opponents, right? There's so much divisiveness, and it's done in order to try to get votes and obtain power.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton wrote the book. Barack Obama took that book and turned it into something completely different. And now, if Harris is given a chance, gang, it'll be Venezuelan gangs coming to a city near you.
Yeah.
It will be you not being able to carry your firearm because they'll say that you're just too dangerous to do it.
I'm trying to find a video. I can't find it. It was from a couple of days ago. A guy was doing an interview holding a Trump sign, and this soy boy leftist saw it and went to run at him.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Went to run at him and pulled up when he realized he couldn't do anything because this guy was much bigger and stronger than him. And it just, you see the same thing there as you see here. This idea that your political opinion must be so right, you're allowed to do something obviously so wrong.
But that's where we're at, and
That's where
that's
we're
what
at.
we still keep seeing. I mean, look. How long did it take Kamala Harris after Trump's attempted assassination to go right back to the attack? Less than 72 hours.
Yeah.
72 hours. That's all it takes now, and we didn't even hear a whisper of it inside that debate, which was the biggest missed opportunity. He should have brought it up. You know, I tweeted right during that. Trump's the only one that has bled for this country on that debate stage tonight, and nobody cares.
Here's one of the clips just before we end the show.
Yeah.
This was another clip that made the rounds.
You touch me with that, you're fucking dead.
This guy broke. Knew he was going for Trump.
Henry Gardner, and I work at the Trump store on Post Road.
Hit me with that,
And
you're
I got a
fucking
guy
dead.
out here threatening my life.
Well, you gotta be careful saying that stuff.
What?
If you do that, you're dead. Like you gotta.
If you hit me with a 2x8,
You got to be careful. They'll use it in court, man.
if you
They'll
hit
use it.
me
Yep.
with a 2x6, you're dead.
You're going to fucking jail.
This
If
is
you-
also
if-
taunting. This
if
is
you
technically
come-
taunting.
If you come into my store, no, it's conditional. There's a difference. It's conditional. If you come into my store and attack me with a 2x6, you're dead. Again, it's a weapon, but my question is, what does he think is so bad about that store's sign that entitles him to destroy it, but also to threaten to hit the shop owner with a 2x6?
That's terroristic. I mean, there's so many things going on here.
And it is just so par for the course who this guy is. It is just, what is it about people like this
That are unhinged and
so
crazy.
feel so entitled just to attack people they disagree with?
Where did the trans hate come from, man? Like it's out there, it's growing, and there's no signs of it slowing down and coming to a business near you, coming to a restaurant near you soon, coming to you in traffic, coming to you at your local polling station.
But think of the perverted kind of viewpoint of this guy, right? He sees Donald Trump as an existential threat to his very existence. That's what the left has taught him, right? So he drives by a store and he sees a store selling merch for the guy who's threatening his existence. Right? If you were driving through
Violently
Germany,
lashed out.
if you were driving through Germany and you saw a store, the Adolf Hitler store, you'd probably do the same thing.
I mean, he was defacing someone else's property. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could be charged there. I mean, the moment that you go through into a business and you threaten somebody with a 2x4, like you need to be on your toes. 2x6, which is just a terrible weapon to. I like. Did he really think he was going to hit somebody with that? It just blows my mind.
Where did he get it? This guy's not Bob the Builder.
He's unhinged. Like, does he just keep a board in the car, and that's the stick he uses to defend himself? There's just all kinds of weird, and it just, whether right or wrong, there's the look, right? So this guy came in with the board, and you decided to shoot him. Like, that's how it gets painted in court.
Yeah. I mean, in Texas, I mean, even in Colorado, that would actually be a little bit better because your self-defense rights are elevated when the person attacks you has already committed a crime.
And if they're just holding a weapon and it's in a menacing manner, like, you better have your head on a swivel. You got to be ready to go. Yeah. The moment they start walking at you with what looks like a weapon and they look angry and they're giving you what we call pre-fight indicators, like the fight's on.
Yeah,
you got to get ready. You got to be able to react in a moment's notice. If you ever want that, go to. I give it here, but
well, we're out of time. It's Friday. Didn't get to it, but Joe Biden bragged about creating more black jobs. So that was apparently super racist when Donald Trump said it. He's being applauded for saying it. So just more of the double standard. Don't have time to bring it up. I recommend people watch it because Donald Trump had a week-long news cycle how it was racist to say black jobs. And here we
Yeah.
have Biden just
Just
unapologetically saying the same.
right.
That's it for this edition of the podcast. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, follow us. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, we're on X. So follow us there. Also, we have the audio edition of the podcast available everywhere audio podcasts are found. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Audible, Podbean, all great places. Subscribe, listen on the road as you're driving, commuting. Try and make this as audio friendly as possible. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together. See you next week.
See ya.